totally. Yeah.
Yep, we're live. Hi, everyone. This is, we have not done this for a while, Greg and Joe together, so we are excited to be doing this. Hi, Greggy.
Hello. Hi. Yeah, it's good to be back on here.
Yeah, it is. And I think we needed the break. I think a lot of people just needed some time to process what's been going on. I know in the energy updates, I've been saying January and February are no reflection of the potential of 2021, and we're definitely holding on to that as everything shifts. And because of that, money has really become a topic that we have been talking about a lot, and that a lot of people around us have been talking about. And in that, we have been sitting on the opportunity to help people with money for a long time. And I think to dive straight in and to just get really vulnerable is to say that we have not been untouched by the lessons of money lately, and in that have kind of been pumping the brakes a little bit in guiding other people while we've had to figure out some money stuff. But we've come to a beautiful point with our relationship with money, and we've deepened our understanding between each other and then with money itself, that it's feeling like such an important time for two reasons. The one is because never before have I had so many conversations with people where money is really, people are in crisis space with money. And when we just look at it globally and collectively, because of COVID, we know that money is tightening all of us for very specific reasons. And the other reason is because, Greggy, you and I are so deeply strengthened in our friendship and in our partnership because we are vulnerable enough to allow money to mold us and shift us, but we never let it break us. And I think that that's such an important gift and lesson that we really want to share with people.
That's right, and it's a lot of it has to do with the fact that we recognize that often it's not about the money. There's something else at play.
Of all the things that we have learnt in our time with understanding money so that we can help ourselves and help other people, it's that money lessons are never about money. And I think before we dive into the energy of how money works and how we navigate our way through money, it's really important for us to each get a little bit vulnerable and tell a touch of the background of our relationship with money going forward from when we reflect back. You're up to doing that, hey, Greggy?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, good. So I'll start with mine. My mom is always, she's an incredible fan, so she is going to jump on or is here already. And I actually had a conversation with her on the weekend saying, Mom, a little bit of the reason why I'm stuck writing and some of the reasons why I'm stuck just nudging myself forward is because I need to get vulnerable and tell the world some stories that impact you and me and the family. And she gave me permission, which I'm so grateful for. And one of the things is money, because I grew up in an interesting environment with money where we had it and we had a lot of it, and then we lost it and we had nothing. And it's my incredible entrepreneurial spirit definitely comes from my mom. But my ability to dive into something without knowing how it's going to pan out, and my willingness to win and lose and wade my way through mud and like let it just drip off for the whole world to see, definitely comes from my dad. And in that, money for me was never, ever constant. It was always coming and going. My dad really and truly took risks that weren't always the wisest risks. And that should have made me completely risk averse. I mean, I should literally be in a 9-to-5 job, knowing that I have a set salary and that I never repeat a pattern. But he sparked something in me that showed me that you can win and lose and come in and out of it. Not that it was always pleasant situations. And Greggy, we're going on, I think, 17 years of friendship. And when you met me, my relationship with money was desperately unhealthy. And I've really had to learn to mold my relationship. Although I still get into a space of it comes in beautiful gushes and it's there. And then which is exactly what we're going to talk about, when something shifts within me, it disappears and then it goes to like next to nothing. And that is a pattern that I know that I really want to change within myself. And I feel like voicing it and guiding people through this process so that I understand it on a deeper and deeper level is going to be hopefully this ultimate shift. I don't think it's ever going to be flatline for me, because then I don't think I'd achieve the things that I want to achieve if it was flatline for me. Actually, I need some of that with money.
Yeah, and that's what we recognize. We have recognized for a while, but then also our discussion this afternoon just confirmed that, and also how we are quite different when it comes to our experiences with money, but also our reaction to an ebb or flow in the money space. My childhood was quite opposite, in that it was all about financial stability and security, and there were never any major dips that I was aware of, and so I was always quite comfortable with the knowledge that actually money will always be around when it's needed, because my father was he was an accountant. He was quite prudent as well with his money and his investments, so there wasn't necessarily so much that it was being spent, but it was being spent wisely and wisely. So that I've brought into my adult life with the guidance of my parents. But what you and I have discovered is that when money gets tight, I have the opposite reaction to you, in that I tend to freeze up. My panic causes me to actually just stop, whereas yours motivates you to move forward. So there will always be for you that drive, that kicker, that is good for you, because it does push you forward. What it does for me, though, actually, is it brings about some vulnerability, and it brings about those conversations like we had today, where I can tell myself some truth. I'm often aware of the situation that I'm in, and I'm aware of what needs to be done, but I battle to tell myself that truth. And I'm more open to those conversations when I feel like I'm in a bit of a corner.
Yeah.
And definitely what we discussed today is the challenge is to make it so that it's not always about that financial corner, but to manufacture that feeling in a different way that has a similar positive outcome.
And the reason why that's so important is because of the understanding that you and I have developed about money, because we have built intimate relationships with money. So there's a lot more for us to share, and we really want to make this as punchy as possible. So in where we have let you know that all of this is happening is actually written there. It's the website, and on the website there is the ebook, and there is a money course called Money and Me. Because I just want to touch on what we have worked so hard to understand, is that money is energy. And the history of money is really basic, that there never used to be such a thing as money. There was energy exchange. You were good at this, someone else was good at that. This person had cows, this person had eggs, you would swap. And eventually what happened was you would need something. So I made a tool, and I still needed eggs. So you didn't need a tool every day. You needed something way more than me. And the IOU system started. And from that tiny little IOU system, money eventually developed. But money is actually energy. And the way that we see it, and the way that we really understand it, is that we watch people and we watch ourselves, and we've watched it come close so many times with each other, that life can bash you around. Your soul can desperately try and get your attention. You can get to breaking point. People have burnouts. People stay in unhealthy, unhappy relationships for far too long, and we just don't listen. Nothing gets our attention. And then for me, the greatest contract, the greatest energetic contract between us and anything more powerful than our soul, our higher selves, whatever it is money. Because when money doesn't show up, we pay attention. The way that money behaves towards us, or the impact that money has within us, we pay attention, and we're forced to do something different. And I know a lot of times people say to me, what about people who don't have any money issues at all? They've been born into absolutely rich families. They've never had to worry about money a day in their lives. My belief is that on a soul contract, there's another lesson that they need to learn, and there's another type of energy. Please, if I knew that every single lifetime money was going to be my teacher, I'm sure that on a soul level, I would not, I would just make sure not to come back so many times, be in the parking bay for longer. And because of that, money can only show up when you are moving in the right direction, and when you are moving towards your highest esteem. And Greggy, we've witnessed that so many times. I think we've witnessed it in each other. And thank goodness we have the ability to witness it in ourselves eventually.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's exactly what happened today. And that's why I love how things always align with us, because, and I know some of it was engineered by you earlier, but this, just so that everyone realizes, that we had planned to go live on this topic a couple of weeks back, but we had a significant conversation about money today, which ties in with this chat, and often it's a pointer towards your highest potential. It definitely is for me. It's when I start to realize what I truly want to do, not what the world expects me to do or what I think the world expects me to do, that the energy starts to flow again. And that's what brings the money flow. It's happened a number of times in the past, and yeah, it's already, I'm feeling so much better today.
When I do have the opportunity for someone to be vulnerable enough to say to me, Joe, money isn't showing up. Can you guide me through this process? That real emotional moment comes in when I say money can't show up, because if it did show up, it would be allowing you to settle for anything. And we have got to figure out together what you can't settle for. And that always brings up such a huge amount of emotion, because in this partnership that we energetically have with money, we have this level, we only understand ourselves from our level of self-esteem and self-worth. And it is always under the true value of who we are on a soul level and on an energetic level. We're always being driven towards our highest, an esteem that we don't even understand, this highest esteem. That's why we're not a fan of vision boards, and we're not a fan of goals, because you're creating those vision boards and you're setting those goals in this limited understanding of what your esteem is. And money gives us this incredible gift and says, I'm so sorry. Sometimes when I have conversations with money, because we really have genuine conversations with money, sometimes when I have that conversation with money, I'm like, I'm listening so hard. I'm trying to listen so hard. And I almost empathize with money that I've got to be squeezed so tight for this realization to come about. But even in the times where it really has been so emotionally tight, and I mean, Greggy, you and I have told stories in the past of needing to cancel meetings because there wasn't petrol money, and like really having to.
Yeah, it has got that bad in the past. You're right. Yeah,
it really has. And at the end of that, you and I know that never once have we, at the end of it, once we've had the right realization and it has elevated who we are as people, as individuals, and as business partners on all these levels, that we have not eventually said, oh, money, thank you for not showing up until that point. Because if you had shown up before then, we wouldn't have pushed, we wouldn't have figured it out, we wouldn't have realized.
Yeah, there's often that gratitude in retrospect, but yeah,
what
at
we're
the time,
trying to do,
not so much.
and what we're desperately trying to do, you and I, is not get pushed so far into the corner.
Yeah,
and we all try and
it's
do
not
that.
necessary. Yeah, it's not necessary if we just acknowledge what the voices that we're hearing within ourselves anyway. It's literally just listening to that voice.
That is the thing. The thing is when you and I finally do have a conversation, I'll say something and you'll say, I've been thinking that, or it will be the other way around. And we've taken so long, and especially when money issues are happening within partnerships and friendships and relationships, it's so important that money is pushing for that truth and pushing for the vulnerability. For me, money and vulnerability are so strongly connected. We've got to brave that in order for it to start to flow. And a lot of times, everyone just gets into victim mode. And if we can start to really understand that it not showing up is your greatest gift, and that's where we want to step in and really help and do the work. That you don't spend so long trying to figure out what the gift is and how to just have that third party have a look and see, because we're going to keep on repeating it. Money issues have got nothing to do with money. People spend so long trying to solve the money issues by juggling with budgets and fixing all of these different aspects. But if you understand that money can't show up until you step into another level of esteem or another level of understanding or another level of truth or vulnerability, because those are the reasons why it doesn't show up, that's when it really starts to shift. We have got some beautiful comments that have come in. Can you see them, Greggy? I don't know if you can.
I can, yeah.
We from the Facebook group, Shanae, it's so good to see you, hon. So I'm actually just going to pop them up. I know it's going to cover most of us, but it is. Can you?
You're too short.
It is incredible to also understand, especially in the way that we do this, that we aren't ever blaming parents. Every single person always does the best that they can with what they have. And once again, to just be able to own the truth is so important. But taking your own personal responsibility, I know it's a tough thing in any level of transformation coaching that you and I do, Greggy, is that conversation with people where we do end up saying, at the end of the day, your parents have done what they've done. You are now the adult and you need to take that level of responsibility. And we never, in anything that we ever do we ever go into any level of blame. We go straight into processes of gratitude immediately. What did you gain from this? What did you learn from this? How did this make you a better person? And that's really important for us in the money stuff as well. My mom is here, of course, which we're so grateful for. And we have Ed, who has really done some beautiful work with us along the way. So thank you.
Ed.
And Ed has, you've seen us in the best and the worst times. So thank you for always loving us and for the incredible support through the process. I'm just looking at the names because the names are actually popping up on this side. Here is a great one. So this is coming from Ryan. The names sadly aren't popping up. So what about believing you deserve? This is where it's so important to understand that the work in giving yourself the gift of knowing your worth is the most important gift that you can give yourself. And for us, it's really important work to guide people to understand, first of all, the difference between self-worth and self-esteem. And to know that rooted within each one of us, within our personality and who we are, is worth. Not one of us are born without this dynamic personality that is loaded with worth and potential and so many different aspects of wanting to achieve and being able to achieve. We are these dynamic, incredible souls, and we allow this mind to convince us of other things. But the trick with money is, and I believe that this is a trick with money, it's easy to say, I believe that I deserve. But it's another thing to push yourself to a place of really feeling that deserving, because money only shows up when you truly feel that deserve, and not when you're just voicing it and expressing it like we shove things on a vision board and we say, I want this and I want that, but we don't understand the depth and the worth of who we truly are. And sometimes that's why when someone starts a new business, when we create a new thing, and there's all these bash ups against money when the startup happens or when the opportunity happens. And it's for that very reason that money's going, you need to know that you are worth this and you deserve this. And that's why they say that most, these startups, small businesses don't last more than 2 years. I mean, Greg, we crawled our way to the 3rd and 4th year. Like, we literally crawled our way into it. And I remember sitting and having conversations with you, literally saying, there is not one other thing on this earth that I would do besides this with you. And that was when it really started to shift. Yeah.
And there was a deep knowing, because there was so much fear around me, but deep within, it was resolute. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so nice to see some beautiful engagement. It really and truly is. We're popping in here because this is another important aspect to talk about, also from Shanae. Self-sabotage due to not believing that I'm deserving. At some point, you have to give yourself a break, right, Greggy? Like at some point, you just, it literally gets to the point where you've got to realize that the only person who is officially holding you back is you. And I think that we have to talk for a minute about the empathy that we need to have with this dear ego of ours, this mental voice, right? That's just a huge big bank of memories. That's all that it is.
Yeah.
And the memories are safe the whole time. And in that, so the two voices, we know our two voices so well, the two voices that really speak and that we develop through the process of growing up, that really makes up the voice of the ego, is the child and the victim. So there's a part of you that is always afraid of abandonment, right? And always afraid of losing that level of innocence. And then there's that victim that is always afraid of being victimized. So instead of waiting for the world to victimize you, you just victimize yourself. We talk about this so often, right, Greg?
Yeah.
So, and in that, if you understand that you're just a bank of memories, and that so much of the work is to quiet that voice, to quiet that child and quiet that victim that is just trying to overprotect you, and you just have to figure out being brave and doing one thing that gives you the bravery to understand that you are deserving. And for me, I know that we can give you so many tools, and why is self-help? One of the self-help and vitamins are the two biggest industries that are out there. And the reason is because you can frame things in so many different ways, and we can't pick up one book that fixes us, because it's not giving us the answer that we want, because self-help is, I need to help myself. And in that helping of yourself, it's literally you need to be able to flip that switch and say, actually, damn it, I am deserving.
Sometimes, though, we choose on a subconscious level not to deal with it in that healthy way, and we wait and we allow it to build, and that is when frustration and exhaustion kick in, or breakdowns, as some of us experience. That is also a positive event in the end, depending on how you take it. But it is literally that where you cannot fight your own self anymore. You fight yourself to the point of exhaustion, and you give in to the truth of what is beneath. And so what we're trying to do is just not allow you to go all the way down that route, but to give you the gift of seeing that truth before you get to the point.
Absolutely.
Mm.
This, it's such a beautiful, vulnerable topic. This topic of money, because especially now, I know that it's touching so many people's lives. And I think just on a global scale, for me, when I saw the impact that COVID was going to have, because we know that it's pushed so many people into vulnerable spaces, people who've never had money issues before are sitting with money issues for the very first time. For me, it's because there is a shift in the collective consciousness of, we can't carry on just being okay with what we've got. Every single one of us needs to fight a little bit harder for ourselves. And that's why I feel like the collective shift in money has come in, because as a collective, if each one of us personally knows that we have to fight a little bit harder for ourselves, then that whole energy raises. But another thing that has happened, and I honestly believe this, is that we're going to see such a clear divide in the world for the years to come. And it's going to be those people who were impacted by COVID, because every single one has been impacted by COVID and said, I will figure this out and I will get the lessons and I will be reframed and I will allow myself to move with life, and this will create a better me. And the other people in the world who are saying, this is unfair, how could it happen to me? And who will continue to blame COVID in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, in 15 years' time. And we just want to make sure that you're on the side of knowing that there is so much opportunity, and money is not showing up at the moment because just on a collective energy, there's just this universal push for us to do more, be more with ourselves, and to give ourselves permission to be authentically happy. Like, find what we truly want to do, find what we were born to do, and what our gifts into the world genuinely are. And if you have a dialogue with money, that's what money's going to say to you.
And yeah, so many of us have found we've got so much spare time as a result of this pandemic, and that's exactly what we could be doing with it.
Absolutely. There's so many beautiful comments that we actually can't keep up with all the comments.
I know, and yeah, we're not getting the names coming through, so I don't know who.
Oh, you're looking at the one
from.
So that's also that's from Shanae. She's having beautiful conversations with us, which is amazing.
Thank you, Shanae. Yeah, because that vulnerability is so important. It's in order to tell yourself the truth, you have to be vulnerable, and you have to make sure that you have that space to be vulnerable. So whenever there's any sort of union or partnership, you've got to work on that of creating that space for each other when things are not tight, so that when things are tight, you can both comfortably get into that space and speak the truth that needs to be spoken. But yeah, thanks for that comment. It's lovely to see that the truth finally did come through.
And I just think it's so important. I mean, Greg, you and I have been friends for 16 years, business partners for 11 years. And we, over the last couple of months, when we've been talking, we've been saying we haven't been stronger. And I mean, just today has strengthened us again, and it continues to strengthen us. And it is because we allow the vulnerability. And I think it's really important to mention that sometimes the vulnerability is messy. Sometimes the vulnerability is where we are bashing up against our own personal issues, and then it comes out in bashing up against the other person. And while you are, that victim is victimizing you, while you're victimizing yourself, you end up victimizing the other person. And it's so important to learn to understand and really empathize with this, any level of friendship or partnership relationship that you have, that if you manage to witness that person as victimizing themselves as much as they victimized you, or getting into that fearful child space with themselves as much as they then mistreat you, and then honoring the vulnerability and braving depths of conversations, then you take relationships to a whole other level. And I've got to say, I really have to say a huge big thank you to money for shoving us into these vulnerable positions to create this incredible foundation that we just continue to build on year after year after year. We don't need to let it get so sticky. We keep on saying that. We really don't need to let it get so sticky. But there's definitely value in it, without a doubt.
I think one last thing I'd like to add is that also money, I believe money should never be the main focus. And I think that quite a few people would like to argue that, especially as a business owner. And so therefore it needs to be clarified that it doesn't mean that you ignore money. It doesn't mean that you ignore your books, your finances, the financial needs of your business. You've got to be very aware of that and on top of that. But your drive is to realize your truth and your worth. That is when the money comes. It's a very different mind focus when you are looking at your products, your suites, your marketing. It'll all be from a more centered point of view rather than that external. And I've got a light-hearted example, which is actually a cabaret group that I used to belong to, which was an amateur cabaret group. At one point, we became so good that we did recordings. We got interviewed by radio stations, and the question that came to us often was, "Why aren't you guys going professional?" And the answer from, I would say, almost all of us was because then money would become the focus, and we prefer the fun and entertainment to be the focus. It doesn't mean we didn't charge for our shows. We did charge because we recognized the value of the entertainment we were providing, but that was not our primary focus.
I think, Greggy, we definitely need to come back in a few weeks' time to talk a little bit more money and business, because we've made some incredible decisions, you and I, around the energy of money, unexpected choices and decisions around the energy of money. And I think that from that real business point of view, it's another really important conversation that we need to have.
Yeah, great.
Good.
Thank you
so
Thanks
much. The
to
interaction's
everyone.
been amazing. Yeah. It's been
you.
Nice. We saw Ryan and Ed and Thales. Thanks for always popping in, and it's been so nice. Sinead, it was lovely to see you, and I know you've been with us from the very beginning and watched all the things that we've been through, and we are so grateful that we come online and we do have this amazing support, and we just want to remind you that we are here to support you too. So once again, in the post that we created for this video, there are the links to all the money stuff. Otherwise, just reach out to us together or individually. We really are here to support you in your journey and your process.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.